The new raid in Destiny 2, The Vow of the Disciple, launched this past week, and in that, I tried my hand at my first ever day one raid attempt. Here's how it went. Ladies and gentlemen, the day one raid has come and gone, and I have to say, it was quite an experience. It was one that I was very excited to jump into. I found myself grinding quite a bit for that day one raid attempt, and we finally made it. We hit the threshold, we beat the story, and we were able to jump in to the Vow of the Disciple on day one. Now, this is the first time I've ever gone into a raid completely blind. It's something that I've always wanted to do, but never really had a dedicated team, of people that wanted to do it on the first day. And so for me, it was one of those things where it felt like a rite of passage. I've been playing Destiny for a long time, and it's funny to think that not once have I ever attempted a day one raid attempt. But like I said, the day came, we finally jumped in to the day one, and I knew it was going to be tough. I've always known about the contest mode, and so I knew that the enemies were going to hit you hard. And my biggest worry going into the raid was about the puzzles. I knew that the puzzles were going to be challenging. I knew that they are often, for even the most veteran Destiny players, sometimes can take hours to figure out. And that was worrying. And after, about 10 hours or so, we didn't even finish it. We did not finish the first encounter. After 10 hours, people started to fade. We started to make really silly mistakes because that's just kind of how it goes. If you're doing the same, encounter over and over and over, and you're taking breaks, we took 10-15 minutes here and there just to kind of figure things out, get our heads right, and then come back to it. And it was one of those things where we just couldn't figure it out. But even after the 24-hour extension, we came back on the day after the contest mode had ended, and we gave it another shot. And I gotta say, guys, it was far easier. There is something about contest mode just brings it up to a whole new level, because after that mode had disappeared and we were back to normal power levels and things like that, we dominated a lot of the encounters where damage wasn't nearly as tanky, enemies weren't as tanky, we weren't getting smacked around like we were before. And so I gotta say that part of it felt good. It felt good to go into the content and actually destroy. But in terms of day one, even though we couldn't beat the encounter, there was something just, I don't know, there was something nice about it. And it's kind of the point of this video, is I just want to talk about my initial impressions on a day one attempt. And for anyone that's thinking of trying next year, when Lightfall comes out for the next raid, or maybe when I think Taken King is supposed to come out within the next couple seasons, sometime in the Witch Queen era. So it'll be nice. I think people will be able to do a day one attempt then as well. I think it's I wanted to make this video about day one attempts and what you can expect, and how to best prepare for new players that are looking to potentially jump in when the next raid drops. And so to start this, to really start about this conversation, I would say that day one attempts, even after my experience with them, are some of the best content in the game. There is something so fun about going into a raid on day one, the same time as 90% of the community, everybody, most people, at least within the community, are at least trying the raid. Now, maybe there's some people who are super sweaty and they're trying for that day one completion, or maybe they're trying for worlds first, or whatever the case may be. I think just jumping in and giving it a shot is well worth the price of admission. And I like that they make it a contest mode. I think that lowers the power level that you need, because I think the raid currently is 1550 to get into it, something like that. Whereas before, when you're jumping in on contest mode, everyone's capped at 1530. You're all experiencing the pain in the same way. There's no such thing as power advantage, or the only advantage you could potentially have are your weapons and your mods being set up a certain way. But other than that, the enemies are hitting everybody the same, and there's just a sense of community that is really nice. I think raids have always been the pinnacle of the Destiny experience, and I really think that there's something to be said about that. And as hard as it is to sometimes find the 5 fire team members that you need on your team to be able to attempt a day one, it's definitely worth the attempt. So if I had to say, why do I love the raids in Destiny 2. I think the raids in Destiny require a level of intricacy. They require a level of thought and detail. It's not just running around shooting your way through everything. While that is a major part of many of the mechanics, is shooting your way through things, there's also, you know, mechanical elements to it that I think you have to really consider. You have to do certain things at a certain time with certain members of your team or in a certain layout. And while there are many ways, you know, people typically will find a number of ways to beat these raids or to beat these encounters that, you know, sometimes even steer away from what was initially intended for the raid. But I think for the most part, like, aside from people coming up with their own strategies, it's still the act of having 6 people work together in an environment to try to figure out this puzzle, work on synchronization and team comp in a way that you're able to find your way through this encounter or this raid. And reaching the end with, you know, 5 other people is it's a pretty cool experience. It's a pretty cool experience. So I say all that to say that, as you know, we're heading into, you know, the Taken King, which is supposed to be coming back, or the next raid in Lightfall, I really encourage more people to start trying to set up teams now and try to find people who play this game that enjoy it as much as you do, because I think there is really something to be said about the day 1 raid attempt. Even if you don't beat it, even if you try for a couple of hours and you barely make your way through the first attempt, or if you're anything like our team, we tried for 10 hours and we didn't even get through the first the first encounter. Even still, it was nice to at least attempt it. I would have at least liked to get through the first encounter. I think that's you know, something I'll set up for the, you know, whenever we do the raid again. But I think really when it comes down to it, it's nice to get a little bit of a challenge in Destiny. And I wish contest mode would become a permanent thing that you can toggle. You know, it'd be nice if you could just go into, you know, the raid and do a master mode. Like they used to have these master modes for Destiny raids that gave you same weapons, but the weapons looked different, and they had, I think, they had increased perks or more perk options or something like that. And I always thought that was the coolest thing, that you if you challenge yourself and you go in on a harder difficulty that might be contest mode or whatever, and if you beat it, you get increased chance of loot, maybe you get double drops or something, but it is a lot harder, you know, to do. And I think in master mode you also had increased challenges. There were like certain things that were different about the mechanics that you had to do. And I wish they would come back with that, but that's another discussion for another time. I just want to make this video to say that if you're thinking about trying the day 1 attempt for the next raid, whatever that is, whenever it comes out, I couldn't recommend it anymore, because you know, for me as a first time day 1 raider, it was nerve-wracking and exciting, and it was nice to like have my snacks ready. I had everything ready to go, and I was just excited to be able to jump in and be a part of the community. So I highly recommend jumping in on day 1. And for those who did jump in on day 1, let me know down in the comments below what you thought of the day 1 raid. Did you think it was too easy, too hard? Let me know. I'm curious to know your thoughts. But until then, guys, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. But until then, I hope you're safe. I hope you're doing well, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.